Okay, so you want to do a little bit of this. And then you probably started looking at prices on what it's going to cost to get parts and all that kind of stuff, and you went, oh, shocking. I know, it's expensive, but don't you worry, because I got a whole entire list of how to build the ultimate 350Z for a beginner, if you're on a budget, if you're just getting into it. Watch this video, I'm gonna teach you how to actually do it. So starting off, the first thing you need is honestly nothing. You really don't need anything. You can go to the track, you can just start drifting your Z. The things are capable, but if you wanna get into drifting, you probably understand that it's not cheap. It's really expensive, and once you start looking at parts and things you need, it's easy to get lost. Some parts are good and some parts are bad. In this video, we're gonna be talking about what you need to actually start sliding. We're gonna be focusing on the 350Z, and there's a good reason for that. The 350Z is an amazing platform to start drifting in. First of all, you have a really solid chassis. Also, future plans for the 350. If you get this car and you stick with it, the transmission back is all held up. So you can swap in a 2JZ, you can swap in an LS, you can do all these different things with this chassis and not have to mess with anything else. So it's very, very future-proof. But that's not what we're gonna be talking about today. We're talking about budget. We're talking about beginner level entry drifting. What do you need to do that grassroots slide? You know what I mean? So I'm gonna be breaking down the top 5 things that I would personally do. This is my plan for my Z once I get it. So this isn't just like some random video. This is what I'm gonna be doing in order as well. So the first thing to do to your car is coilovers. You wanna have that stance just a little bit lower, and you wanna have that suspension more stiff. There's nothing worse than going around a corner and your whole entire car is flicking to one side and flicking to the other side. Not like in the nice flick, is in like the roll kind of flick, and you're just getting tossed around everywhere. You can't have any control over the car. Well, you can, but it's really sloppy and it's pretty difficult. And once you start sliding back and forth, it's gonna be hard to keep your motivation up when you're flying all over the place. I would recommend going with some BC Racing Coilovers. They have like the DS series, that's really good. They have like 4 stages. Basically just go with your price point, see what works. And the more important thing is make sure you get the right spring rates. Do a little bit of research, see what kind of spring rates you wanna get. They already have like some packages you can go for with the 350Z, and if you have any questions, just call them up and they'll be happy to answer. There's loads of different options out there when it comes to coilovers for this car, but BC Racing's huge. I mean, they're all over, they're a reputable brand, and I would highly recommend them. And if you're liking this video, be sure to drop a like and subscribe. We're trying to grow this channel up for you guys, so thank you. The second thing I would pick up after getting coilovers is a seat. You need a bucket seat if you're gonna start sliding. You can't control your car if you're also flying around inside the car. It's not gonna happen. I had a BMW with like couch seats, and just trying to take that thing a little bit quick around a corner was almost impossible. So a bucket seat is gonna be huge in this part. All you need to do is pick up one if you're gonna be driving. If you wanna pick up a set, you can do that as well. But if you're on a budget or you're just trying to test this out, you can pick up a few cheap options as well. You have NRG, you have Sparco, you have Corbo, something like that. I'm not sure how you pronounce it, but you have a ton of options out there, and you can get like the super cool fancy ones. You can get just like a basic one. What I would recommend is just don't get a reclining seat. Make sure it's a fixed back, and don't go for like the eBay special. Yes, it's a little bit tempting, but trust me, once that seat starts flexing, it's gonna be like you don't even have a bucket seat at all. The real brands have nice, rigid, solid seats. They're a little bit more expensive for a reason, but it's still not too expensive. If you have like 400 bucks, you can pick one up. Following this, it's not necessary, but it's probably recommended, is get yourself a steering wheel. The stock steering wheel isn't very good, and once you pick up a racing seat, you're gonna be fixed in that position. And so say you bolt your seat in and your pedals are a good distance away from your hips and all that kind of stuff, and you get situated, but maybe you're a little bit taller, and so you have to be sitting back just a little bit further. That means your arms are going to be even further away from the steering wheel. With that, you can buy a new deep dish steering wheel, which will set your wheel out a little bit closer to you and be a little bit more comfortable to drive. So different heights require different size wheels, and you can play around with this a little bit, or maybe get like a little adapter ring for your steering wheel assembly so you can have like a little spacer there. You can play around with it a little bit, but I would highly recommend getting a steering wheel as well. Steering wheel and racing seat, number 2. Number 3, these cars don't really need much. All you really have to do is keep up with the cooling and maintenance. So one thing you gotta do with the Z is you have to get an oil cooler. These engines are a low oil capacity engine. It's about like 4 quarts, and so that oil is going to heat up really quick. And if you're doing lap after lap after lap in these things, which you can do because they work and they just drive, the oil is going to get pretty hot. You can pick up one of these Mishimoto oil coolers for about 400 bucks, I think. All these parts will be put down in the description of what I'm going to be running on my Z. You can pick up another radiator too if you want to. I would recommend it. It's not really necessary, but if you want to go lap after lap, an oil cooler is definitely going to be mandatory. Keep in mind too that the 350Zs like to burn up a little bit of oil, so make sure you have a couple of quarts on the side and top it off when you're at the track. You might have to do like a quarter of a quart or maybe half a quart if it's burning a little too quickly, but keep that in mind and watch your oil. Halfway through the track day, you probably need to top it up like once. But other than that, you should be good. Number 4, this is probably what you guys been waiting for, is the angle kit. We want to get those slides in. We want to get really cranked out. Angle kits, there's a few options that come with the 350Z. You have like your Pbm kit, you have your FDF kit, and you have WiseFab. Yeah, you can probably get like custom knuckles or something like that, but those 3 kits are really on top of the game when it comes to the 350Z. The Pbm kit kind of gets a bad rep because they break, and they break because everybody tries to extend those arms out as much as they can. And I mean, yeah, you want a bunch of angle, but sometimes that comes at a cost. Other than Pbm, you have WiseFab and you have FDF. And WiseFab is still really expensive, which is why I would recommend getting the FDF kit. It's super affordable, it looks super fancy, and you get a ton of camber, ton of angle, and you can really drive well with these. They have a couple different options for the Z. I know they have the base option, which runs about $1,500 right now, and that just kind of connects the bottom arms together. There's no custom knuckle or anything like that, but it has everything you need, and you get about 65 degrees of angle from it. And then if you want to move up to the next rank, you can get their Mega Mantis kit. The Mega Mantis kit comes with a full custom knuckle. Everything's adjustable. It's super nice, super fancy, and it's a little over $2,000. The Mega Mantis kit is probably what I'm going to be running on my Z, and if you really want to take this seriously, I would highly recommend you getting one of those. Having this angle kit is going to allow you to slide out way further, have a lot more angle, and a lot more adjustability inside your drift when you're actually sliding. If you're going in a little bit too fast, you can flick that back end out just a little bit more to slow you down. And in tandems, it's going to be a little bit easier to control your car and get those door taps. Last on the list, we have the good old e-brake. So, e-brakes, yes, they're super nice, and yes, I would highly recommend one. People like to say, oh, you can learn drifting without having an e-brake, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, you absolutely can. Like, you can definitely drift without having an e-brake, but once you get to the point where you're doing tandies, you wanna have that safety net. If you're going in a little bit too quickly on somebody's door, you wanna slow them down before you ram them straight off the track. Having that e-brake is a good backup plan to slow you down and have a little bit more control. Also, some entries you really need an e-brake. If you don't have enough speed or you have too much speed, you can use that to kick out your back end and just get a nice slide around the corner. Some tracks have a really fast run up and then a really tight corner. So instead of going slow, clutch kicking to gain that little extra speed to get yourself around, you can speed up, accelerate through, and then pull that e-brake to slow you down into initiation. And yes, it's technique and it's different kind of styles, but like I said, having that e-brake is just gonna advance your game even more. You don't have to rely on it. You can still drive without it, but it's definitely gonna be a bump up in your driving game. And then when you're installing these e-brakes, you have 2 different options. You can go inline or you can go dual caliper. Some cars, it's easy to do dual caliper, and some cars, it's really not. Like the Corvette, those are kind of hard to do dual caliper. There's not much room back there to put those on, and kind of the only option is just to do inline. With the 350Z, there's really no reason not to do dual caliper. I can't even talk, man. I can't even talk. But there's really no reason not to. I mean, brakes are cheap. You can just get the stock 350 brakes and reverse mount them on the rear. You can pick up a kit that mounts right to the back of the hub. It's bolt-on, it's easy. All you have to do is pick up some lines that pretty much go to any e-brake you pick out. There's tons of e-brakes out there for the 350Z, and there's even some nice ones that mount inside the dash right underneath the radio, and it's nice and tucked away and you don't really have to see much. I would recommend getting the lit e-brake. It's called Lost in Transition, but it has a little lit thing on top. I would recommend getting that thing. I'm going to get it. It's super clean. It looks super nice. It's like that same classic look of an e-brake, but it's got that little lit symbol up there. I think it's pretty sweet. But the nice thing about this e-brake is it mounts underneath the radio. Super slim, super nice, and it's even got a little bend on the bracket itself, so it mounts right on top of that trans tunnel. There's no modifications you need to do to it, like welding it or bending the trans tunnel in, and the trans tunnel on the 350Zs are pretty stout, so you don't have to worry about that thing bending whenever you're tugging on the e-brake. That's the top 5 right there. I got a couple extra little bonuses for you. Once you pick up those coilovers, you're probably gonna need some rear arms. The thing about drifting is most cars, you lower it down, you want a little bit of camber because it looks cool and it helps with fitment. But with drifting, you want like no camber in the back. If anything, you want a little bit of positive camber, because when you're sliding, you want all of that contact to be on the tire and on the surface. So you want even tire wear across the wheel, so you're not wasting on tires and you're getting as much grip as possible. So all you really need is the toe and camber arms. I know ISR makes a pretty good kit that's pretty affordable. I'll put that in the description as well. So once you have all that suspension work, that's pretty much everything you need. And the next thing you want to do is probably do a little bit of engine mod to it. So first thing I would recommend is intake, exhaust, and a plenum spacer. If you're picking up a used car, it probably already has this stuff on it because everybody does it. But if it's completely stock, if you happen to find one that's completely stock, I would recommend doing those 3 things and then a tune on top of it. One thing you can do is raise the red line by 1,000 RPM, and that's gonna give you a lot of leeway and help you a lot whenever you're drifting. Some tracks are a little bit tighter and some tracks are a little bit looser than others, and sometimes you'll be able to feel that you're stuck in between gears. So second gear is a little too high, you're going a little too fast, but third gear, you're going a little too slow to kick those wheels out. Having that extra 1,000 RPM on the red line is gonna allow you to stick in one gear over the other. Other than that, I would probably recommend getting a Diff Brace. The stock 350Z doesn't really have any kind of bracing. I think it's got 1 bolt that goes to the diff. You can pick up a brace from FDF. I know they make one, and there's loads of other ones out there, but I would highly recommend getting one of those. Your diff is going to be really used and abused with all those clutch kicks, and you really want some support when it comes to that thing. You don't want it blowing up. Also with the diff, you're gonna need that welded. Don't go with the LSD. It's not really worth it. Those are viscous diffs and they don't really work that well. There's not good reviews on them, and when it comes to drifting, I mean, they just don't really work. So just weld your diff, get a diff brace, and you're set. Once you have done all of that, congratulations, you actually have a drift missile. Man, you are gonna be killing it on the track. That is the ultimate beginner drift build. If you have all that, you're good. I mean, for years, you're good. The 350Z is a track missile and it's a drifting missile. So many people are buying these now and building them to drift. It's getting insane. Prices are going up, so I would get your hands on one now, and trust me, you are going to be set with this thing. There's a reason why these pros are getting 350s and getting seat time cars. These things work, they're reliable, they go lap after lap. Keep it stock, keep it simple, and get yourself some seat time. Thank you guys for watching this video. Be sure to like and subscribe. Tell me what car you want me to do next, what kind of drift build you want to see next, and I'll absolutely do it. If you want to see an overall 350Z review, be sure to click this link up in the top. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.